Carlson. Councilmember Guevara. Councilmember Barnwell.
Here.
Councilmember Fan.
Here.
Councilmember Hercules.
Here.
Councilmember Barnwell.
Here.
Councilmember Hong.
Here.
Councilmember Rivera. Councilmember Kicky John. Councilmember Vergara. Councilmember Pataki. Councilmember Raza.
Here.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Councilmember Reynolds, be absent.
Councilmember Tungwell. Oh, right here. Vice President Fong.
Here.
Vice President Gazan. Advocate.
All right, thank you so much, Secretary. The next time on agenda is approval of the minutes. Are there any objections to approving the previous meeting's minutes?
Motion to add to agenda under new business, first item, R5129.
Is there a second to Alvin's?
Second.
All right. All right, going back, are there any objections to the past meeting's minutes? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. The next time on agenda is approval of the agenda. Other than Alvin's amendment, are there any corrections to today's agenda?
Yeah.
Point of order, we require 2/3 vote to put R5129 on the agenda.
All right, I guess it's a separate session.
No, we require 2/3 vote to put on the agenda.
Oh, it's okay. Are we just saying?
No, this is 2/3 vote.
Oh, okay. All right, so okay, so we'll have to have secretary to the secretary to take note of who is in favor of putting the legislation on agenda since it requires 2/3 approval, and those in favor of, I guess, seconding Alvin's amendment of putting R51. What number? Okay, 29. R5129 on the agenda. Please say aye.
Aye.
What is it? Yeah, it has to be 2/3.
You don't have to count unless you're sure of the vote overall. Like, unless it's conflicted vote. Like, if you're for sure the majority of the approval, you don't have to do that.
All right, okay, understood.
You know what I'm saying, alright?
Yeah. Are there any objections to Alvin's, I guess, amendment putting R5129 to the agenda? And Alvin, when you want to put the,
There's nothing new business.
okay, so let's put it. I'll actually entertain the motion to put it under or after public comment because I understand that the Taylor has to leave early. So, would you like to switch your amendment?
You already passed the motion, though.
Oh, okay. That's all right. All right. Are there any objections to moving R5129 under after public comment? All right. Seeing none, it passes. All right. Since there are no further, I guess, objections to today's agenda, we'll move on to public comment. Are there any members of the public to speak? Yes, Taylor.
Hi, so again, for like the third week in a row, Millennium Student March is this week, so I'd really appreciate it if y'all could like reach out to any constituents you have, any friends you have, organizations you're a part of, publicize it on Facebook, click attending also, and actually come out to the rally. We're hoping to have like a really successful event and make a lot of noise nationwide about free higher education. So I'd really appreciate if you all could come out.
Thank you, Taylor. Any other members of the public like to speak?
I do.
Yes.
I think the Legislative Council should be more attentive to public comments. So like when someone's making a comment up here at the podium, I think people should be attentive and actually listen to what they're saying instead of being on Facebook or not even paying attention. So I think y'all should also cut the side chatter when you actually have these meetings because it doesn't look good to the public that y'all are not paying attention.
Thank you. Were any other members of the public like to speak? All right, seeing that, we'll move on to the next item on agenda, R5129.
I move to adopt R5129.
All right, may the author read the legislation?
Sidar.
Oh, sorry. Well, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
So, whereas Albuquerque, New Mexico, Lawrence, Portland, Kansas, Portland, Oregon, St. Paul, Minnesota, Bexar County, Texas, Anadarko, Oklahoma, Olympia, Washington, and Alpena, Missouri have all recently recognized the Indigenous Peoples Day, and whereas Indigenous Peoples Day reimagines Columbus Day and changes the celebration of colonialism into an opportunity to reveal historical truths about genocide and oppression of Indigenous peoples in the Americas, to organize against current injustices, and to celebrate Indigenous resistance. Whereas the representative body of ASUCI recognizes that the Indigenous peoples of the lands that would later become known as the Americas have occupied these lands since time immemorial, and whereas the representative body of ASUCI recognizes the fact that UC Irvine is built upon the homelands and villages of the indigenous peoples of this region, I don't know how to pronounce and whereas the representative body of ASUCI has a responsibility to oppose the systematic racism towards indigenous people in the United States, whereas which perpetuates high rates of poverty and income inequality, exacerbating disproportionate health, education, and social crises, and whereas Indigenous Peoples Day was first proposed in 1977 by a delegation of Native nations to the United Nations-sponsored International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in the Americas, and whereas in 2011, the affiliated tribes of Northwest Indians representing 59 tribes of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Northern California, Western Montana, and some Alaskan tribes passed resolution number 11-57 to support to change Columbus Day, second Monday of October, to Indigenous Peoples Day, and now therefore let it be resolved by the representative body of ASUCI that the student government of UC Irvine recognizes Indigenous Peoples Day and does the following. The representative body of ASUCI strongly supports the proposition that Indigenous Peoples Day shall be an opportunity to celebrate the thriving cultures and values of the Indigenous Peoples Day of our region. The representative body of ASUCI strongly encourages California public schools to include the teaching of Indigenous peoples' history. The representative body of ASUCI encourages other businesses, organizations, and public institutions to recognize the Indigenous Peoples Day. The representative body of ASUCI firmly commits to continue its efforts to promote the well-being and growth of Seattle's American Indian and Indigenous community. Do we mention the last part too? I guess resolved that the ASUCI Legislative Council retroactively recognizes October 12, 2015 as Indigenous Peoples Day, and resolved that ASUCI Legislative Council, unless and until it expresses a contrary position, ceases to recognize the second Monday in October as Columbus Day, and resolved that ASUCI Legislative Council shall, unless and until it expresses a contrary position, continue to recognize the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day, and resolve that the ASUCI Legislative Council encourages the student government associations of the University of California, UC Berkeley, UC Davis, UCLA, UC Merced, UC Riverside, UC San Diego, UCSF, UC Santa Barbara, UC Santa Cruz to adopt similar positions, and resolve that the ASUCI Legislative Council encourages other organizations that ASUCI is a matter of partners with or plans to work with in the future, including but not limited to the University of California Student Association, the United States Student Association, the California State Student Association, the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, and SCCC Region 8 to adopt similar positions, and resolve that the ASUCI Legislative Council requests the ASUCI Office of the Executive Vice President and other current and future entities within ASUCI engaged in lobbying advocate on the state and federal levels for the holiday designated as Columbus Day to be eliminated and renamed Indigenous Peoples Day, and resolved that the ASUCI Legislative Council encourages its members and the other members of ASUCI and the UCI student body to educate themselves regarding the systematic issues and the continued struggles of indigenous and First Peoples around the world, and resolve that the ASUCI Legislative Council shall host a town hall. Resolved that the ASUCI Legislative Council recommits and requests the other branches of ASUCI to likewise commit to addressing the needs and concerns of current and potential indigenous students at UCI.
Alright, thank you, sir. We're in open discussion right now. Yes.
Can I just take a moment to recognize that we actually are on Ojibwe land, so they are a native tribe to Irvine specifically.
Thank you. I'll pass my chair to Alvin. So as part of the executive cabinet, like Parshan did before, he did release a statement to change Columbus Days to Indigenous Peoples Day. So I believe that, like, on behalf of the executive cabinet, we're really in support of this legislation, and we encourage legislative council support as well.
I'll pass my turn to Alex.
All right, thank you. Would any members of the council like to speak on this legislation? Yes, Tim.
Yeah, I'd like to add a comment that the thing about genocide is throughout most of human history, if not all of human history, it's shown to work. You know, when the systematic destruction of a people's culture and being takes place, more often than not, pretty much all the time, it's going to work. And it's the duty of the future and the present to remember those who lost, in order so that we can make sure that this kind of stuff doesn't happen again. And it's really difficult, but this is a step in the right direction to make sure that the people that were wronged in the past are still remembered.
Thank you, Tim. Would any other members of the council like to speak? All right, seeing that, we'll close discussion and move on to voting. Secretary, please.
Councilmember Hayward.
Abstain.
Councilmember Barnhart.
Abstain.
Councilmember Fan.
Abstain.
Councilmember Hercules.
Abstain.
Councilmember Bramwell.
Abstain.
Councilmember Hong.
Yes.
Councilmember Fatahi.
Yes.
Councilmember Raza.
Yes.
Councilmember Tungo. Alright, passes 306.
All right. Yes, Parshan?
Can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
I have a question before, Council. I noticed that we just had about 7 people abstaining. I'm curious if anybody would like to explain, was it because they didn't feel that they were aware of the issue enough, or that they didn't have enough time to discuss? Because we did have open discussions just now, nobody mentioned anything, nothing was raised. And, you know, it's everyone's right to have whether abstaining or not, but I would rather have yeses and nos as much as possible than abstainings, because the abstainings is the worst form of, you know, decision in my opinion, where we're just saying we don't want to vote at all.
Point of order, can we have a proper discussion if we're going to discuss this topic?
All right.
We'll have discussion on our particular again.
Second.
All right, we're in open discussion.
Okay, so I'll explain why I abstain. I abstain because this legislation wasn't put into the system the way legislation is supposed to. It was just shoehorned in at the last moment. I didn't get a chance to read over it. My computer's dead, so I also can't read over it now. So I just didn't feel like I had the ability to really go through it for the right thing.
Alvin?
Just to clarify 2 things, we bypassed the normal day requirement to put legislation in because we did 2/3 votes approved on the agenda today. Additionally, we can, if council decides to, you can always re-vote on legislation and we can re-record the updated votes if needed.
Yes, Tim?
I guess one of the problems that I had with it, I still voted yes, but I kind of don't agree with some of the sections of it, and they're a little hard to bring up, you know, because like I guess how it seemed is when we say yes, we agree with all the parts of it, and that can, you know, we don't really want to strike down the part that we don't like.
Well, I guess, so I hear that. I do want to mention though, I mean, as council members, Robert's rules allows you to change any sections that you're not comfortable with. You can always propose changes to any language that might be confusing, or to art that might not make any sense. And I hear Aria's point that was mentioned where it wasn't put out, but as was mentioned by Adam as well, it was put out to a vote, and 2/3 of folks mentioned that they're comfortable with having this under discussion, which means to me, at least those 2/3 of folks should be making a vote of either yes, they're approving it, or no, they're not. So this is where it gets confusing to me. Either, you know, if the conversation is that we don't feel comfortable with bringing in legislation before having prior time to read those, then we should not vote to bring it in with 2/3 majority. 2/3 majority of 8 people means 6 people. So 6 people voted to bring it in, and then we only had 3 votes. So that's where it gets really confusing to me. I expect that those folks decide to have more time to read over it and not bring it to the agenda, as opposed to then bringing it and then passing it with 3 votes. You know, and these are the sort of moments where if the public is going to look into this legislation and see 7 people or 6 people voted that they don't want to vote on it, they abstained, and it passed by 3 votes, this is not going to look good on us. And this is not going to look on a good reflective.
Yes, Aria and then Frank. And then, yeah.
So, just something to explain, I think, part of what you said, you know, why don't we pass it with a 2/3 vote, if not? I don't know, I came late, so maybe it was said earlier, but when it was brought up to vote on it, it was just called RFP 129. I didn't hear the title of even what it was about, and so, like, I didn't know what it was. We've had it in the past few sessions, last minute legislation brought up that were just kind of some very basic things that had to be done, like to in-state representatives. So it could be people who just went along with it. It's like, oh, it's one of those things, but it actually is something that is what is something that needs discussion. And I think it was a little bit confusing because we didn't follow the right procedure, putting it in at the right moment and explaining what it is.
Right?
I particularly just abstained. I would have actually said yes, but as an at-large representative, with all the resolved sections, I just felt that putting too much on our students to actually like say, oh yes, we want to do Indigenous Peoples Day, and you want the public to recognize it, and I just thought as a whole public situation, it was just, all the resolved sections was too much, and it could be clarified and shortened.
All right, thank you. Jeremy?
Just to basically repeat what everyone else said, I just feel like it was really rushed, and I didn't realize that, like, I agree with the content, but I don't agree with some of like the wording. I think it could be worded more like wisely, and yeah.
Thank you. Marshawn?
So this is where it gets to where I've had this discussion in the past years. I'm going to propose that we table this discussion until Thursday, and I expect that folks who do feel that there is some elements of it where they were concerned about the language, that you all are going to read over, that you come to Thursday's meeting, and that, you know, you then give me or give folks whatever decision that you have. Whatever concerns you have, we're going to change, and then we vote on it then, if that's what folks think is the best. But I do hope that when Thursday comes, and if that's what gets decided, I do hope that when Thursday comes, we don't have 7 people abstaining. That I'm expecting folks coming in with a decision of either they're supporting it or not. At least, you know, I'm not saying you should not abstain, you still have the option to do so, but I'm hoping that is the case. And with that said, I'd like to end it with motioning to table this discussion until Thursday's council.
Right, we still have 2 council members who would like to speak.
Motion overseas.
Motion overseas. I was going to make the same motion. Okay. Rachel? Okay. Yeah, okay. So, all those in favor of tabling the legislation to Thursday, please raise your hand. All those opposes? All those abstains? All right, motion passes. And then we'll table Office 129 to Thursday. I guess just wrapping the whole conversation up, I would just like to remind council members if you have any thoughts about the legislations, please, I guess provide your thoughts or any comments or any questions that you have during open discussions. It is crucial. That's why we have open discussions to begin with. And I'm sure the entire council knows too, is when you vote on a legislation, you vote on behalf of your constituents and not on your own. I was just like to remind you all that. So we'll discuss Office 129 on Thursday, and Taylor, if you'd like to come back to give background on it, that would be great. But that's completely up to you since, yeah. All right, so now we're into executive officer reports. Office of the President.
All right, so I have mentioned before that we have been working to address the 19.5-hour issue. And last week I mentioned that we have found solutions. Right now my office is working with the student first to develop a sort of a small statement that we could put out to the student body, just saying that this issue has been resolved. And I'm looking forward to bringing that up in the next coming days. I might not have it done by Thursday, but I'll try my best. And on top of that, we've had a number of different programs that are going to be occurring soon. One is going to be Art Lab, that's going to be coming up, I think, in 2 weeks. And then we have Mental Health, next forum is going to happen on November 18th. As we're speaking right now, we have the primary debates for GOP going on, which 60 by 16 is co-hosting with the College Republicans. On this Saturday, I believe, there's going to be one for Democrats. That, again, College Democrats and 60 by 16 Commission will be partnering on doing so. I have recently been working on a couple of different things. I mentioned last week, one of the issues that has been brought up to me is the issue of bikers and biker safety. I'm looking into that as we speak, and I've mentioned, sent a couple of emails to folks to try to look into that in more detail and updating the bike path. Another issue that we're right now discussing is the art spaces. So I've mentioned that before too, sorry, not the art, the dancing spaces. So that we're looking into again. Other than that, a lot of my focus right now has been the strategic plan. We have a timeline crunch that is going to be next Monday, where we have to develop everything. And so we just had a meeting earlier with Vice Provost Judith, who has been helping us to establish where and how we should focus on our development of our guidelines or of our recommendations for these guidelines. So come Thursday, I am hoping that we could get a really robust discussion through the student body and legislative council to be able to finalize our recommendations and provide the provost office with those by Monday afternoon. So speaking of which, I know that we have had the flyer redesigned thanks to folks on the committee that was assigned to it, and we have the flyer out there. I'm hoping that the council members could start publicizing it around. I haven't seen it be publicized that much, and we do have it in 2 days. So I'm really expecting that, folks publicize that discussion on their Facebook, wherever we can, so that we can get a good amount of participants coming. We have some really important discussions that needs to be happening on Thursday, so I'm really looking forward to that.
All right, thank you, Parshan. All right, admin affairs. So this past Sunday we have the honor of 10 years in action. I have the honor of attending the Donate Live, I guess, team playing meeting in Santa Ana. So as some of you know, Michael Belko was a large council member that passed away in a car accident around 4 years ago. So in honor of Michael Belko, his family has been donating to ASUCI to host the Donate Live campaign, which is to try to spread the message of trying to get people to register as organ donors to save lives. When Michael passed away, he saved 3 lives with his organs. So that was really noble of him to be an organ donor. So 10 Years in Action will be hosting the Donate Life Awareness Week this week outside of AS, as you all have probably seen. And they'll also be participating in the Donny Life Walk, where 15,000 people and community members will be participating in April. So, and we'll be having a Team Michael Belko, I guess / UCI team. They'll be joining the walk as well in Cal State Fullerton in April. So that is something that we're really happy to be a part of as ASUCI. Second thing, other than AI, half of my executive office is also doing Awareness Week with garden sustainability, boothing out there for the entire week in regards to gardening. We have Student Life and Advocacy and Campus Task Force boothing to raise awareness about student health, and we're also receiving surveys for parking and dining. So it'll be great if you all can stop by and support on Ring Mall. That being said, we are, I guess, our efforts in planning the California Higher Education Food Summit is going well. We have opened applications to receive workshop proposals, and we've been getting a lot of responses so far. So it is something that is we're really excited about hosting. Some other, I guess, stuff that's been going on. Brand board will finally convene during week 9. So we'll keep you updated, and there'll be legislation pushed out for the members who are appointed as AS representatives on the brand board. Alright, so that's all the executive officer reports that we have. We'll move on to special committee reports. International Student Committee. Alright, Parshan is outside right now. We'll move on to Parking Committee. Shannon?
So for parking, we're working as Jonathan said, weekly for week 7 this entire week. We're working with Campus Parks Task Force to distribute surveys for students to fill out their issues and concerns about dining and also parking. And today we have our meeting at 7 to 8. You guys are all welcome to join at the ASUCI office. We will be doing proposals for our
Awesome, thanks. First Generation Non-Traditional Student Committee. Alright, since Parshan is outside, we'll move on. Students with Disabilities Committee. I assume that's Parshan as well. Alright, Undocumented Student Committee.
Parshan.
Parshan. Transfer Student Committee.
Parshan.
Alright.
That's not partial. Transfer student is Alex.
Yeah, technically I'm working with him on that stuff. Yeah. Alright. Refurbishment Committee. Sid?
Yeah, okay. We're just doing reports, right?
Yeah, if you have no reports, you want to do it.
Kind of. Okay. No, okay. So I spoke with Stephanie and Aaron today, and we really have some we have like good traction on like the refurbishments. So I've started to get prices, and we discussed on like a lot of things that we're going to do, and so yeah, basically I just need to get prices and like also well, yeah, basically pretty much yeah, I'm just starting to get prices, and like once I compile the report of like prices, everything that we're getting on show the council.
Awesome. Thank you, Sid. Alright, my UCI committee.
We're currently looking for students to basically lead the entire committee. Last year we had all the chief staff do on the funding committee. This year we're not sure yet as to if all the offices have bought in and agreed with us. And also we're looking for students to kind of spearhead the entire campaign. We met last Thursday and basically discussed possible like right now so far we're just discussing the future things like if we want to decrease, how much would it be? Would it be a reasonable number? Things like that. If you know any students who are interested in creating this community, please let me know. Yeah.
Thank you, Constitutional Revision Committee.
Additionally, right now, I was supposed to bring a copy of the Constitution to you all today, I kind of forgot. I'll send out a copy of the Constitution out to you all so you can look at it yourself and see all the changes that are made. Right now, we're all just going through the version that was proposed last spring and seeing if any changes will be made. We're trying to finish all our policy changes by week 5 winter, and then once that happens, we will start creating a campaign from there, or working on a campaign from there.
Awesome, thank you, Alvin. Alright, and then we'll catch up with Parshan Badia's special committee reports when he returns. Alright, seeing there are no old business and new business, we'll move on to council interim program reports.
Right now, I am currently talking to my interns, seeing where they're at, making sure they're all content and happy with the program. Additionally, we are currently looking at doing more recruitment for interns. I have already said this to all council members, but if any you're interested in having interns of your own, like any interns in shadow or help you with anything, please let me know. Additionally, we are trying to make this program bigger. I tend to have the insurance help me run a couple events that I've been running on my own recently. So there's that. We didn't really focus on talking.
Alright, thank you. Alright, so next item on the agenda is committee breakouts. Are there any objections in moving on to committee breakouts for 10 minutes? Alright, seeing that we're in committee breakouts until 5:48 p.m.
Yeah, sure.
You're fine in this? Okay, I'm excited.
We should move.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, we're both.
Wow.
Yeah,
Look beside her.
You know, you would know.
You would know. I think I would just know now. Like, I was like, okay, just like numb to it. I saw it. I have been. I don't like that.
So there's
I agree.
You're making that drill or you're making that drill. Yeah. I found this out. Why does everyone use your name? Yeah, how can no one even go to your name? Like, you know, I need to get my quota too. Like, there's too many guys. Okay, I'll
Is that like in the morning or something? What? Okay, it's in schedule. Nature is closed. Nature doesn't take a day off. I don't know, please. I just think that. And yeah, but I can be productive. Like, I don't know what to make it actually sleep. I'm sorry, what time is yours? That's still like a 30.
Yeah, you did. I forgot. Why did I can forget things? Some I forget.
I remember, like, did you guys go?
Just no, we're just
Yeah.
it's so weird.
Wait, is that her natural hair? Is that your natural hair? Was your hair like
For years.
hers? Oh.
Don't believe anything you see.
It's all deception.
Dark.
Oh, so this for Carol and
You're chairing the meeting.
I thought I was able to like.
Oh yeah, you're chairing.
Yeah, we split.
Pass your chair off. No, you're chairing it. Pass your chair off like Theo.
I'm a fraternal twin.
Look at that. She's like, okay, come on. Yeah, I know. Give me a second, please. Did you all just study now? Wait, so you guys like each other though?
No.
I don't know.
No, like in your fraternity.
She wasn't having them last year.
Yeah.
We live right above each other.
Oh, wait, you live in Newport too?
Yeah.
That we passed to destroy the bus, not to drive. That's school.
That's true.
We didn't pass it, it was the bus club. Yeah.
I was arguing.
I was on the.
Yeah.
I really wanted to get some of the schools in Newport.
That was the nicest thing about UCI, I swear.
I'm sorry that you have trouble getting by your nice child. trouble coming to school.
I used to take the bus to the beach as a freshman. At other schools.
Ariel,
Yeah.
can you coordinate with Elvis? He wants to do his budget report today.
Okay.
Is that okay?
At like other schools, it's like really
I don't know because you've never said next to me. That's why like Jeremy used to.
UCI, it would be easy.
He's totally lying.
How can space lie? How can that be? Except like this.
Yeah.
Over there.
Study this year. Yeah, so this is the
He's like, don't be.
Yeah, I'll be good.
Every time I just sit in trouble so much from guys, always stopping them when they call me. I did that. I'm so sorry. No, I own up to it. I know part of it was my fault. This is still part of the last one, so really, that's
Me too.
You're social counsel, right?
I don't really get the does
I was supposed to know how to all
Additionally, research opportunities, we will increase research opportunities through SSARC, which is the Department of Social Sciences. Have internship programs, they can help you with resumes, basically like counseling, but mostly on the jobs field. Also for the strategic plan, they're gonna like balance out the rating if it's ever going down because of admitting too many students is through their research opportunities. That's what he told us. And also Alex has some concern that he brought up about econ majors, such as econ 20A or 20B that are classes that are very hard to get in, and people wanted to switch to those majors. So he just said yes and write down a bunch of things, but we don't know that what is the possibility of pursuing that. And I think they're also adding another major for the strategic class, which is linguistic major. Yeah, that's about it.
Alrighty, are there any other school breakout reports at all? Do you have any motion for final business?
Real quick, so I'm expecting that most of you all have already reached out to your teams and that you are either meeting with them soon or have already met with them. I'm hoping that if you haven't got anything back from your teams, you can reach out to me. I've worked with some of the folks already, for instance, already to make sure that their teams are reaching out to them. The chief of staff of the provost has extended their hand to say that if any of the teams are not responsive, he can follow up with them and make sure that they do respond. So if you have any questions. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, me and Sid are having problems contacting the dean. Sid's been contacting Dean for a while now and hasn't heard anything back.
Oh, no, as in like, he contacted him like 2 weeks ago. He said that.
So if it goes too long.
Well, yeah, I emailed him and then he said that his secretary Jennifer, she'll get back, like, she'll set up a time, but then she hasn't gotten back to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm planning on sending another email tonight, and if I don't get anything back by tomorrow, or like, until council on Thursday, I will let you know.
So I would suggest not only email back again, but you keep them on a phone call. You can find their phone information and call them in the office.
During the summer, I tried to mail with like all the schools, but I had a problem with engineering too. They never respond to anything.
Yes, this is a repeated occurrence, even when I was serving last year. So, but I didn't try to call him, so I'll try that. But,
Try calling them, both of you all, call him and call his office, and then if they don't respond, then the provost has mentioned, the provost should establish an agreement.
okay, we'll keep you updated then. Thank you.
Sounds good?
Oh, I had an announcement actually. So the School of Social Ecology is partnering up with the Plum Center, and they're going to be offering a minor in poverty for people that are interested. So very, very soon, we're going to offer a minor in poverty alleviation.
Katrina?
Oh wait, I have a question. It's okay if we can only meet one time, because my group can only meet like one time, and it's like at the, during the final week already.
One time in the quarter or one time?
Yeah, because I emailed him earlier in the quarter, and then I'm going to be gone for like all these weeks, but we can meet like December 2nd.
So, the only thing that we mandated them to do, or they're mandated to do sort of, is once a quarter. They're not supposed to do any more than that. It's best to develop a close relationship with your team. We ideally want to have at least like a monthly thing, but they are required to do once a quarter. So, there and it's fine, but try to, when you meet with them, try to say, hey, I would like to have more continuous meetings, like a monthly meeting, for next quarter.
Any other items for final business?
Oh, yeah,
Tim?
so, and I got an announcement, me, Sid, and Katrina went to the E-Tech meeting a couple weeks ago, and so just to give you the update, so far, Shora is still doing from OIT is still doing the Canvas pilot. Results are in, it's showing a leaning towards towards a supportive Canvas, but she's willing to update us more on progress, and they're still going to do the reports on the fall, which is going to be the big pilot season. And so she's willing to do a presentation on it whenever you guys are ready.
So is this a survey that they're doing, or is this based on usage of it?
It was a post survey of whether they like Canvas or not.
So is there any way we can access on, because the pilot has been available for all the students, for all the courses to do pilot. So is there any way we can look at the usage of whichever it is, either the old one or the new Canvas? Because I know I didn't take any surveys, but I've only been using the old AAA version.
Yeah, I think it should be on the Canvas website. If it's not, then I have it here in like these PowerPoint slides that should be on the website. If it's not, then I'll talk to Shora about sending it to everybody. But it's there mostly, but it's mostly over the fall and spring quarter from last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then lastly, I know they reached out the Canvas, because they showcased the Canvas new thing two weeks ago, I think. And they reached out to me, to mention that they're interested in doing another follow-up presentation in the council.
Yeah.
So I was going to mention if I think that would be a really good idea if we could start setting that up before, maybe a couple weeks from now.
Yeah, I was thinking to do it in the winter quarter when we have all the new people in, but I can set it for fall if you want to.
Fine. As long as we make sure they know.
I'll keep you posted on that one then.
Sounds good.
Yeah, also for E-Tech, we are still updating the Wi-Fi in a bunch of classrooms. If you can ask me if you want the specifics. Update for computer labs.
Can you ask for them before you send out the digital?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to find a digital copy. So yeah, try it. That's everything.
Okay, another motion for final business.
I motion to have 10 minutes for legislation writing.
Is there a second for that motion? Are there any objections to that motion? Alrighty, we are in legislation writing time for 10 minutes.
And I would like to also make a comment. I would ask folks to not to talk to anyone else, but just to focus on your computer if you have one, and then start working on writing a resolution. I hope by the end of this meeting, everyone will have at least an idea of what they want to write a resolution on. so that you don't want to see no more agendas with no resolutions on them. It doesn't really look good at all. That's fun.
Yes, there's announcements. Parsha?
So, okay, Marina and I met with as I mentioned earlier, Marina and I met with Vice Provost Stephen Norris. There are going to be multiple things that they want us to look into when we're developing our recommendations list to strategic plan. What specifically they want us to do is look at the Honors College. That's the college that's being created. So, do you all know what the Honors Colleges or CHBs?
Yeah.
So you know, yes. So they want us to look into CHB. They want us to get a better understanding of whether or not CHB is good to be expanded into a new college. So it's its own college, like an Honors College. So that's in the strategic plan as we're speaking right now. And a lot of concerns have been brought up that that's not a good idea. So I want you all to go home thinking about that, and when you come Thursday, have a discussion on whether or not that's needed. Another thing they want to look into is actually the academic counseling programs and how we need to expand those. So Ellis and I are talking about right now to schedule sometime so that the folks from Academic First can come in to council and present their report and finding. Hopefully in the next week or 2 weeks. Probably next Tuesday though, realistically, hopefully. We'll see. And then lastly, we really want to figure out a solution to online education. We had a discussion today. We talked a lot about the issues that provides with regards to how it will look like if we have a full-on online program. So just so you know, we do already have a full-on online program in criminology and law and society. Fully online and not #1 in the country. So those already exist. UCI is the leading UC institution in online education. So there's a lot of those stuff that is going on. So as we move forward, that's what their plans are, to try to supplement education but not replace it. That they reassured us, that they're not going to replace face-to-face academic instruction with online education. But they're still planning on expanding online education. So that's things to have in mind. Just highlighting what's probably going to be discussed on Thursday. Lastly, I did brought up to her that we are going to have a discussion on semesters versus quarters. Just so you all know, even if we come as a unanimous decision that semesters are the better option, they will not implement that in the strategic plan. But what would look like is we will give a recommendation that by the development of next strategic plan, they will have a full-on decision on whether or not they want to plan that. Because even the next decade, it will not be enough time. But what it will say is we will like in the strategic plan, best case scenario, it will say, whereas there is a section added, over the next decade, we're looking into options of potentially changing from a quarter to a semester system. So we're looking into that, and those are the 4 points.
Are there any other announcements? Are there any motions?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Any objections? Meeting's adjourned at 6:58.
Good one.
I saw the circle. I was like,
I know, but I mean,
Okay, so go ahead, give me your name and how to spell it.
My name is Raymond Lam, R-A-Y-M-O-N-D, last name Lam, L-A-M.
Perfect. And what is your position in TEDx?
I am the executive director for this year. So the president, executive director, same thing.
Rolling. So tell us a little bit about TEDx UC Irvine.
So TEDx UC Irvine branches off of the main TED organization. It's a TEDx program, which basically means it's an independently organized and run TED-like event. The cool thing about TEDx UC Irvine is it is a university TEDx, and so with the license, what we're able to do is hold TED-like conferences, but make them...
Give us a presentation. Thank you. Hi. So we would like to request that all cell phones and laptops be closed. In front of you is the resolution, so you all have access to it without electronics.
That's how I introduce myself in my Navajo language. I'm Mexican clan, born for the saltwater clan, and I'm here to present with Taylor on the resolution draft for you.
Okay. Yeah, y'all know me. I'm Taylor. Hi. So the points that we're going to be going over is we recognize that there is not enough information that you all may know about the Indigenous community to really see why this resolution is so important to us and why the events that happened on Tuesday were very disrespectful to our communities. So we're going to be going over it. So issues within the Native and Indigenous communities and reservation life in specific. We're going to introduce some Native and Indigenous leaders and organizers for you all. We're also going to be going over federal and statewide interaction with our communities and the recent activism within the Native communities. Okay, so our first leader that we want to talk about is Wilma Mankiller, and she is actually from the Cherokees, and she was a female chief in 1985. So what she did was she tripled the enrollment and doubled employment for her reservation. And she built new health centers and children's programs, which you will all see soon, why that is so important to this community. So they were actually reared in poverty, and after all of the progress that Wilma actually did on her reservation, she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Honor by Bill Clinton. And the next person we have is Esther Ross. She is from the Stillaguamish tribe, and she campaigned for 50 years for her people's rights. And her membership rose from 29 people to 160 before she eventually passed away. So she established fishing rights on their land. She obtained federal recognition, which is a really huge thing because not every tribe is federally recognized. And she gained treaty rights that made them eligible for federal benefits, which again, not every tribe has currently.
So the next slide is about our Native and Indigenous issues. So past historical issues include the American Indian Movement, which started in 1968, and it fought for broken treaties that occurred within our lands, as well as basic civil rights for Native peoples, and just fighting to be recognized in the United States. And in the taking of Native land and broken treaties, there have been numerous broken treaties that have occurred between the United States and certain tribal lands. And the American Indian Movement actually took a big step in this by doing what was called the Trail of Broken Treaties, where they went through different reservations to Washington, D.C. to fight for these rights. As well as uranium mining, which is a huge thing on the Navajo Nation, where there was a lot of companies coming in onto the reservation to mine for uranium using Native peoples, as well as poisoning the water that was already there. And today we see the consequences of that through certain people having huge rates of cancer in certain areas of the reservation, and also the urban transition programs from the reservation that happened during the boarding school era, and as well as cultural erasure, which is also due to the boarding school era, which we'll talk about later. So present day issues, there's huge police brutality on our reservations, yet nobody really knows about it because nobody really knows what life is like on the reservations. And then there's the I Don't Know More movement who is fighting these kind of things. It's a movement that started in Canada with their First Nations people, and there has been huge support here in the United States with us having our own kind of movements. Drug abuse and domestic violence is a huge issue on our reservations as well. Suicide rates are super high, as you'll see later on in our presentation, as well as domestic violence, because people who commit domestic violence and who commit these kind of violences towards mainly indigenous women, are not prosecuted on our land.
So, like I said, 1978, the Supreme Court denied tribal courts the inherent right to prosecute any non-Indian living or working on the reservation, which is a problem for our communities because there is domestic violence committed against mainly our women, and also our tribes are not able to actually prosecute any of these offenders. And also, bringing it back to the domestic violence, recent statistics show 1 in 3 Native American women will be raped or violently assaulted in their lifetime. And then 60% of all Indian victims report their attacker as being white. Okay, so we're going to talk about employment in regards to reservations. Many households are actually severely overcrowded, and most of their quote breadwinners only earn Social Security, disability, or veterans income. The scarcity of jobs and lack of economic opportunity means 4 to 8 out of 10 adults on reservations are unemployed. Among American Indians who are employed, many earn below the poverty wages. And between the people living below the poverty wages on reservations is even greater than those living in urban cities. So the overall is about 28.2% who live below poverty who identify as Native or Indigenous. However, when it comes to reservations, it's 38% to 63%. So that's just the disparity between urban life versus reservation life.
So as far as health on the reservations, the average life expectancy for a Native American has improved, yet it still trails that of Americans by almost 5 years. So,
sorry, you're on the wrong slide.
Okay, yeah.
Is it after employment and housing? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, we accidentally skipped housing.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So about 55% of American Indians rely on the Indian Health Services for medical care. I can attest to that because my family uses the Indian Health Services that we have in SoCal or in San Diego area. So we have to travel 45 minutes to the nearest health center to have dental appointments as well as hospital visits. Yet the Indian Healthcare Improvement Act only meets about 60% of their health needs, and due to underfunding, the facilities are crisis-driven and leave a wide gap in adequate and preventative health care for many Native Americans on the reservations. So I have a story that actually attests to this kind of huge disparity of health on the reservation. So a couple of years, it's been a year since this happened. So my aunt had a baby, her name was Mahala. So she was at a babysitter's house when all of a sudden the baby couldn't breathe. And so ambulance were called, but it took an hour for the ambulance to actually arrive to the residency. And by the time it got there, the baby had already stopped breathing and was pronounced dead on scene. So imagine the fact that it took a whole hour for an ambulance to arrive to a house, which ended up with the death of a baby who wasn't even a year old. And that was my little cousin. So it just shows how bad it is for healthcare and receiving healthcare and assistance on the reservation.
So we do want to bring to light that there are not proper resources given to our Native Indigenous people of America, especially. Internationally, it is definitely another issue as well, but in regards to America, the link between heart disease, diabetes, poverty actually ends up being 63% of natives with heart disease will die before 65, compared to 15% of Caucasians. So if you see that disparity, it's about 21% difference. 82% of Native Americans are more likely to die from suicide than Caucasians. 82%. This isn't just an issue that is within one community, it's an issue that is brought on by other communities and their interaction with this community. Infant death rates, like Chelsea said, are higher and 60% higher than Caucasians. Okay, so
Can I ask a question or should I ask it later?
yeah.
Oh, can you go back? I'm a little bit confused about the penultimate stat. 82% of Native Americans are more likely to die from suicide. Is that 82% of all Native Americans if they're likely to die from suicide? Or is it,
82% of Native Americans are more likely to die from suicide than Caucasians.
Oh.
That's overall.
I guess the clarification is, if they're 82% more likely?
Yes. So housing. We're actually going to skip housing if we can just go to education. So the Dawes Act was actually an act that tried to civilize the Native American life, and this meant that the education of Native American children were put into boarding schools as a form of education. So taking away children from their actual community and putting them into boarding schools, and it was mainly an assimilation tactic. So today, the education system on reservations is still lacking. Their turnover rate for teachers is 1 year. That means they can't keep a teacher for more than 1 year. And that's due to both lack of resources and also that there isn't a good environment for Native children to actually know the benefit of an education. The principal of one of the best known schools for Indian children is in Pennsylvania, and he boasted that his aim for each child was to kill the Indian in him and save the man.
So to expand on that, so just kind of imagine being taken away from what you've known your whole life, your traditional language, the stories that you grew up with, being around other natives, and then being taken from your home because the government issued this act and put in a boarding school where as soon as you arrive, they forced you out of your traditional regalia. They cut your hair, and that's a huge thing because hair is very important to certain tribes. And hair is only cut if there's a death in the family or if there's a sickness. So just imagine getting there, you're taken away from everything you know. Every time you speak your traditional language, you're given a physical punishment, whether it's being spanked, whether it's being yelled at, whether it's being hit with a ruler. I know my dad said that happened to him when he was in the boarding schools on his reservation. And being told that you are just a savage and that they're trying to assimilate you because they want to save the man or make you into what they see as a human in their eyes.
Okay, so federal state interactions, like I said, the Dawes Act from 1887, and basically what it meant was they required all natives to be as much like white Americans as possible, so converting them to Christianity, making them speak English and losing their native tongues, wearing Western clothes and hairstyles, and living a self-sufficient, independent American life, and that is in regards to being away from reservation life, away from a community, away from culture. So in August of 1953, Congress endorsed the House Concurrent Resolution, and basically what it says is the policy to, as rapidly as possible, make Indians within territorial limits of the U.S. subject to the same laws and entitlement and same privileges. So this gave Native Americans actual citizenship, but that wasn't granted to them until 1953. And then President Obama has a new initiative called the Generation Indigenous Initiative, and it works on improving the lives of Native youth through new investments and increased engagement. So this is something more current, but it's long, long overdue.
So any questions y'all have?
Also take this opportunity, if you're confused about anything written in the legislation, to ask them.
I think obviously a good first step is to pass this legislation, but it's at the end of the day symbolic and it's only one thing. Do you know anything else that we could do or any suggestions? Because I'm just tired of paying lip service to certain communities.
Yeah,
and not actually doing anything.
So the legislation put in front of you, if you look at page 2, we have bolded the actual amendment that we would like to make to the resolve that ASUCI Legislative Council shall host a town hall. It's to our understanding that people on board do not understand what should be within the town hall. So instead we offered an alternative. So it reads, resolved that the ASUCI Legislative Council shall show their support for the indigenous community of UC Irvine by helping to sponsor the 2016 Native Youth Conference held by the UC Irvine American Indian Association, in which students from Native communities all over Southern California come to learn about higher education.
Yeah. Alright, so I am chair of the American Indian Student Association, so I just want to explain what our Native Youth Conference is. So every year, last year was our 5th year that we did it, so during spring quarter we have a day where we host Native students from the Sherman Indian Boarding School, which is in Riverside. We bring them here to UCI for a day, as well as other TANF programs that service Native communities. They come on campus and we give them a day of keynote speakers, of workshops. We feed them and we give them a campus tour so that way they see what it's like to be on an actual campus while promoting the idea of higher education because we do want to see more visibility of our Native population in higher education. That's what Native Youth Conference is. Yeah.
And in terms of support, how do we at Legislative Council support? Is it financial support? Is it showing up?
We did ask to help sponsor, in regards to it's more financial. However, like community support is also really great. Last year we had to reach out to MECHA to get people to help because the American Indian Student Association is very small. So whether it be like financial support, of course, is what we're looking for as well. But even like people power. Yeah, we go.
Other than that, is there anything else? I mean, it's obviously not your job to tell us what to do, but do you have any ideas or suggestions that Legislative Council can work on in terms of advocacy? Maybe if you want to talk about that now, or we can talk about that later in the past session. I don't know.
I think that's something that maybe we can discuss later and then bring back up with further legislation.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Why is the resolution specified on part 4 of the resolution? Specifies Seattle's American Indian and Indigenous community. Why Seattle?
Yeah, so we actually used the Seattle resolution that was passed to help frame our resolution. When I tried to like bind all and replace all to California, because it had an apostrophe S after Seattle, it didn't change that one. As well as on your new legislation, it does have bolded the actual correction. That we would like to make amendment. However, it's from my understanding that we cannot personally. So we did pass it along to a few Legislative Council representatives so that they could actually make those like amendments.
Okay, gotcha.
Are there any other questions for Chelsea or Taylor? Thank you. So with that, I'll open up a 10-minute discussion about the legislation unless you are...
I'm sorry, you didn't call the meeting to order.
Oh, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Does anyone want to approve the agenda?
Wait, attendant. I'm sorry. Attendant. I'm sorry.
I'm not here for this part, usually.
Councilmember Hayward. Here. Councilmember Carlson.
Here.
Councilmember Shavine. Here. Councilmember Barnline.
Here.
Councilmember Cannon. Here. Councilmember Canada. Here. Councilmember Archuleta. Councilmember Sarkisian. Carla.
Oh, I'm sorry, here.
Councilmember Ratnell. Here. Councilmember Hahn. Councilmember Olvera. Here. Councilmember Vergara.
Here.
Councilmember Fatahi.
Here.
Councilmember Raza. Here. Councilmember Reynolds. Councilmember Leno.
Here.
President Khashoggi. Here. Vice President Jamaki.
Here.
Vice President Kazan. Advocate General Rosales.
Can I have an approval of the minutes, so anyone?
Second.
Okay, with that, the minutes are approved. So do we have any public comment?
Sorry.
Oh, can I have an approval of the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, the minutes are approved. And with that, we'll move to public comment.
Hi, sorry. So I do want to address what happened on Tuesday in Legislative Council. As someone bringing forth the legislation from their community, I do expect that when I come to Legislative Council that I get met with questions, comments, concerns to the legislation. If you all don't know the proper procedure to offer an amendment, I really hope that you would go home today and look up, I don't know, Robert's Rules for Dummies or something simple to break it down for you all, so that you can make the proper procedure calls to actually make amendments. There was only 2 people that spoke in between on Tuesday, and nobody had any questions, comments, or concerns. So as a constituent to some of you all, I really do expect you all to do prior research if you have to. I do understand the concerns that the legislation was brought up really quickly and that you weren't sure exactly what it was. Y'all should be asking questions. I'm very disappointed in Legislative Council at this point. However, I hope that today y'all can understand where we are coming from as a community that is already severely underrepresented, and then to be disregarded with 6 abstains. Thank you.
Thank you. As a Native student who is a part of the American Indian Student Association, the fact that 6 people abstained is kind of ridiculous, considering if you read the legislation, it is to change what is formerly known as Columbus Day into Indigenous Peoples Day, and I don't see how there could be some kind of hesitation. If you know the history of Columbus and what he did to the Native people of the United States and how he founded this country, and how you wouldn't be willing to say yes to an amendment that's willing to change that to recognize the people who were first here. That's all I'm saying. Okay, bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any other public comment. Stephanie, so, okay. With that, is there no other?
Question. I have a question about the legislation as it stands right now. Are we adding any clauses or?
Point of order, can we please discuss this in the proper?
Comments?
We're
No,
not-
we're in public comment. Okay, with that, can I get a motion to move up old business to discuss the resolution before we go into executive office reports?
Move old business to before executive officer reports. Oh wait, we already approved the agenda, so is there something else we have to do?
It requires a 2/3 vote. If you want to read it. I move to. I move we suspend the rules and consider R5129 immediately.
Second.
Can we please have a 2/3 vote?
Yeah, can we take a vote? All those in favor, raise your hand, please. All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, with that, it passes, so we'll be moving into the resolution. I will put 10 minutes in for discussion, starting.
It's 15 minutes.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
15 minutes for the announcement of the resolution and discussion.
I guess I'll start off. I just want to say first thank you for giving that presentation because I did not know a lot of the things that y'all talked about, and I really appreciate you taking the time to inform us. And then I just want to say that to not pass this resolution is very disrespectful, very disgraceful, and it is denying, it's denying truth, it's denying history, and it's denying the community on campus, their history and their stories, and ultimately their identities. And I think that as representatives of students, we have no right to do something like that, and we should uphold truth and honesty and pass this resolution. Because to not pass it is ultimately like denying genocide, and that is not okay. Last year, Leg Council passed a resolution to recognize the Armenian genocide, and if my community stood up there and had our history denied by council and to have to deal with what y'all dealt with on Tuesday, that would be so hurtful and so offensive. And I think that we all have we all have the obligation, and just because it's right to pass this resolution.
Yeah, so I have a question. The second to last resolve, are we having because bolded language says resolve? First of all, can I motion to change all those resolve to say be resolved? because not the correct language.
One of personal privilege, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter? Okay, so, okay. And the second is, is that bolded because we haven't added that yet in, or?
That's what we would like amended.
Okay, so I do have a comment on that. So, I think this resolution is very, very important, and I wanted to, personally, I want it to be something that becomes a founding document that we can refer to every year. If it's okay with you all, I would rather want to see that piece, because saying that you all want us to endorse the conference for next year, I would rather have it as a separate bill so that it doesn't concur with this, because then that makes it outdated. Like next year, folks will say, could say this is outdated. And
The
stuff.
2016 ASU conference is this spring.
I
It's
know,
within
as in,
this.
or it makes it timely. So I want this to be something that's an untimely document that maybe we can copy and send it to other schools.
The reason why I put it where I put it was because it's not guaranteed that later on when we come to council that we will find the funding that we are asking for. So that's why we did put it in there like that. However, we're up for suggestions if this is going to be the clause that doesn't let this resolution pass.
So wait, okay, question. So you're all asking for funding as well on the same bill, on the same resolution, or what was it? Oh, I think
It's sponsorship, not exactly like financial funding, but there's a lot that ASUCI can give to our organization.
Oh, no, absolutely, I see that. I'm just thinking procedural ways, like what's makes the most sense. Because if you are asking for funding as well, that has to be a bill. That's a separate one.
I'm sorry, just point of personal privilege. Please let the chair address you before you start speaking. And additionally, please grant the members who have not spoken yet a chance to speak. Members who have not spoken yet get priority over people to speak again. Sorry.
So next on stage is Miguel Vincent.
So you can go first, I think he's more moving.
Okay.
Or you can go.
No, I have something else, go ahead.
Sid, you go ahead and then.
I was just wondering, is there a way to, you know how, all the committees that we formed, there's a way to make them so they cycle every year? Can we put that into legislation and we write it so that, the conference gets funded every single year? Is that possible?
Can I ask you to clarify, what do you mean cycle?
Cycle as in, it repeats itself, without having.
Oh, so in the legislation that would be written, we would be indefinitely offering sponsorship?
Yeah, and it to be renewed every single year without the, unless somebody calls it out and shuts it down.
Just to address that, if it's in the resolution and it's stated as so, and it is passed by the Legislative Council as far as sponsorship and what that is classified as, it would be able to cycle. And Alvin, you want to clarify?
Just to clarify, council's legislation can, as it currently stands in our code, can only affect for the current year. We cannot say anything for the future administrations. We cannot commit funds to the future administrations. We cannot do anything of the future year. We can only do legislation that affect this current academic year.
And then Miguel, Matt, Ariel, and Marshawn. And then,
I just wanted to reiterate what Carl was saying, especially because I was thinking about how the council meeting from last year when the Armenian genocide was being recognized. I know a few council members wanted to move immediately to just call it a bill to question. I remember Kalina said, no, we have to talk about this. People from the public came to give a presentation. And I think a lot of us at this point are very used to passing resolutions. And I mean, sometimes we feel like it's whatever because people from here wrote it, but especially when people of the public come to speak, especially when something is personal, I think we really owe it to them to at least have a discussion every single time. But yeah,
I just want to talk about the importance that we definitely do pass this legislation because in 11th grade, I was doing a class project that involved this exact topic, and I was privileged enough to travel to one of the reservations and talk to some kids about part of my language, the shit that they go through, and it's really fucked up. So, yeah, let's pass it to everybody.
I want to make a couple points. So first of all, I completely understand the point that was brought up in public comment about being upset about the abstains. I think it's what I said last time, but also I just want to reiterate. I think that was a result. I think we all agree with the substance of the resolution. It was brought up very fast. We didn't get a chance to read it. I think when discussion time came up, we all wanted to read the resolution, to even just see what it said, and then so that's why we didn't discuss it. And then there was no discussion, so we went to voting, and we still haven't read it. So just, I think if we just had it brought in through like the normal system, and not brought in through a 2/3 vote at the time, we all would have been for it at the time. But I really appreciate the presentation. It was very educational, very informative. I do also want to add, I don't know if it's, okay, I don't know how, I mean, I was thinking maybe amending also something about being against the baseball team name, the Redskins. I don't know how, like the football team. Yeah, the football team. I don't even know, but like, yeah, like I don't know how that even still exists. Like I think it's pretty racist, but I don't know what you guys think about that.
I think that should be a separate legislation apart from this, because Indigenous Peoples Day is an actual day of recognition rather than like a football team that not everyone supports, etc. Columbus Day has been something that has been advertised through our schools since we have been little, even like promoted even in a higher education, so I think it should be a little bit separated.
Okay, I wanted to like reiterate the fact what Parshak said, that this last clause, the bolded clause, I think it would better serve the indigenous student, UCI American Indian Student Association to have a more, like a better thought out longer bill that would specify what funds, how we're supporting the conference and whatnot. If we put this, I don't know if we'll run into any, any sort of problems with J-board and stuff like that, because there's not enough, I guess there's not enough details on how we're supporting them and what we're doing. That's why I feel like amending this and taking this out and making it a new legislation would be a better idea.
For those on staff, do you mind if Samuel responds to that? And those who are on staff would be Frank and then Marshawn. If Samuel responds to how that would conflict with J-board or not?
There's no issue with the language as opposed to the resolution. Supporting the Indigenous Day is fine. There might be an issue with the form, because there's not a specific allocation of what ASUCI is going to be doing. If you could separate the bill, if you could separate the bills, that would be preferable. If not, we can argue it in judicial board, but I would really prefer this bill be passed. I'm certain it can be passed with just a resolution. I'm not sure if it can be passed with both.
Can I ask a question in response?
You're the chair, Christine, you got final call. I'm sorry.
Yes.
We need to yield our time.
Yield, yeah.
I yield my time.
So it was a suggestion from Stephanie that instead we add a specific amount of sponsorship money and add the clause and/or people power, which is what we do need running the Native Youth Conference. I don't know how you all feel about that.
So,
Just from a procedural front, if we're gonna do anything with money at all, it needs to be in a bill, not a resolution. Just so we're all clear here.
and then Frank and then Ariel.
Okay, I absolutely love the presentation. That was the real reason I abstained, was because growing up in high school, my high school was a very big bubble. It didn't tell us a lot, like only like what we needed to know for like U.S. history and everything. And so there are students that don't know about this, and so that's why they argue the idea about this name change of the day. So like, I think it would also be very, very beneficial, and I'd probably even write it, to write a legislation so that there is a day at the beginning of like every school year where the American Indian Student Association can give a presentation about why this happens, yes.
In response to that, so November is Native American Heritage Month. So in the current year now we're thinking of ways to do exactly that, but during this month of November, so we could retell it during our certain heritage month and bring awareness to people.
Alright, yeah.
Sorry to partially on the head of you on staff, Ariel.
So, a lot of things what was already said. I would just say, so we've had issues in the past where we've done try to do both bills and resolution bills. It's definitely not allowed in any form or context procedurally. So let's just, I would say, I'd be happy to author another resolution for the youth conference so that we can specify exactly what it does, because And then again, also, if you want to have like one that says, you know, we are endorsing you, or like recognizing you, and then another one that says we are gonna allocate funding from people power and those should be two separate things. So that's why I want to see like where in the clause where it says, whereas the legislative council will show their support for the indigenous community bodies and so, what would that showing support mean? Is it saying that we'll recognize this conference, or we'll recognize hostage of this conference, or do we want to have people power, like you said, and funding and everything? If that is the case, the scenario is the case, then we'll need a separate bill that would say how much money.
Okay, sorry, just to respond real quick. So none of these amendments have been. Can we have someone yield their time?
I yield my time.
Okay, none of these amendments have actually been proposed to even change. So we're talking about something that hasn't even been changed yet. So before that happens, I personally am comfortable with changing, instead of by helping to sponsor, by helping to advertise.
And then,
I'm even comfortable with the current language of that the ASUCI Legislative Council shall host a town hall. I'm okay with that, and then we can have another bill where we talk about contribution to what you're talking about. I mean, I think I'm totally okay with hosting a town hall also about it and helping with that. I don't know how everyone else feels.
was there anyone else who wanted to discuss the legislation?
I move to amend the legislation from now therefore be it resolved by it will be the first now therefore be it resolved clause, clause number 4. Now therefore, right now it reads, now therefore be it resolved by the representative body of ASUCI, the student government of UCI recognizes Indigenous People Day and does the following. Number 4, the representative body of ASUCI firmly commits to continue its efforts to promote the well-being and growth of Seattle's American Indian and Indigenous community. 4, the representative body of ASUCI firmly commits to continue its efforts to promote the well-being and growth of California's American Indian and Indigenous community.
We're going to go to council-wide vote.
I just want to
Sorry. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and now we'll go to a council-wide vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Is this in favor of
To have the
change in California.
all those in favor to have the amended change from Seattle to California's American Indian. All those opposed? Abstentions? Unanimously, so it will be amended to go to growth of Seattle to growth of California's American Indian and Indigenous community.
Motion to extend discussion by 5 minutes.
Is there a second?
Second. Vote.
And then, all those in favor to have discussion extended by 5 minutes, please raise your hand. Aye, please. All those opposed? Abstentions? And it passes.
I motion to also make another amendment to legislation on the third to last resolve clause from resolve legislative council encourages the members, the other members of ASUCI and the UCI student body to educate themselves regarding systematic issues and the continued struggles of Indigenous people around the world, and to resolve that the ASUCI Legislative Council encourages the members, the other members of ASUCI and UCI student body to educate themselves regarding systematic oppression and the continued struggles of Indigenous and First peoples around the world.
All those in favor to have the amendment to change the word to systematic oppression, please raise your hands. All those opposed? Abstentions?
Can you repeat the other? It's basically changing on the last third, let it be resolved clause from systematic, right on systematic issues to systematic oppression after that. Sorry.
Do you have to change the vote?
I motion to end discussion and go to a straight vote.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are you not amending that last one?
Yeah, I'd like to amend the second to last.
The one that's full.
I rescind my motion.
Just as a point of clarification, the bolded resolve, is that already included in the legislation? legislation we're voting on?
No, it's not. It would be in exchange for resolve that ASUCI Legislative Council shall host a town hall.
I still would like to reiterate that I really would rather prefer to introduce a new resolution to just specifically outline that, but I really want to gauge what you all would say.
So I feel like we're not understanding, that bolded part is not technically new legislation.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So yeah, yeah.
So they were first, my understanding was you all were wanting to include that in this one, and I suggest that we write a new one instead. So have this solely be for First Peoples Indigenous State, and then have another one for supporting and endorsing the conference.
So would anyone like to make either an amendment or have discussion? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So, like I did say, I would rather change it to by helping to advertise the 2016 Native Youth Conference. I also think it's really important that it's passed within this resolution to bring awareness to the fact that we are trying to build up our community and trying to encourage our community to come into higher education, and this is exactly what this legislation is about. It says in the beginning, it reimagines Columbus Day and changes the celebration of colonialism into an opportunity to reveal historical truths. I think it's really important that it's within that legislation that Native Youth Conference is at least mentioned, at least with the help of Legislative Council to advertise it.
So with 2 minutes on the clock, are there any more discussion on whether this bolded should be amended or whether you all would like to keep the original Katrina, then Alvin, and then Ariel?
Wait, I don't understand. So if we keep the bolded, then if we keep the bolded part, then we can't how responsible am I giving them money?
Just to clarify, the bolded part is not in the legislation that we are voting upon. The bolded part is what Taylor and Chelsea has presented to us to be amended into the legislation.
For me, I just that's weird. I totally agree with the statement. I just want to we should make it more clear what kind of support we're showing. Is it financial support? Are we endorsing the event? Are we what kind of to the extent of how much support we're giving this event essentially? I agree with Carson's concerns of making a second resolution, but I also see the point of wanting to have it in this resolution as well. But that was my concern.
So how about in this one, we just say, we take out the helping the sponsor part, we just say show our support for the Indigenous community we see you run, leave out the by helping to sponsor the 2016, or you want to show the support for the 2016. And then
we don't know what support.
That's fine. Yeah. So what I'm saying is just leave it ambiguous in this one, and then in another bill, we can specify that support.
I'm going to extend discussion by 5 minutes.
Is there a second? Can we get a vote of all those in favor to extend time by 5 minutes? All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Wait. Is there any other? Are there any other people who want to discuss this legislation? Okay.
Wait, so what are we?
I have a motion. I motion to change.
Pardon, wait.
This motion takes precedence.
Sorry, this is what they gave us is something that we're trying. It's not what we're going to be voting for.
So
this is not the actual.
That
is what we're trying to amend in.
To clarify once again, the bolded part on the last page that says resolved that the ASUCI Legislative Council shall show their support and etc. is the amendment that both Taylor and Chelsea would like one of the Legislative Council members to amend, but we're having a discussion whether it would interfere with whether this should be a resolution or a bill. But this, as of right now, the bolded part is not in the legislation that we're voting on.
So where is this? Is that online?
Yeah.
But it states that instead of the bolded part, it would be for a town hall.
yes.
Is this the exact is it the part that we want to change because they were concerned?
Girls,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and the scale I only have the first one, but I have the new resolution that we want amended.
Okay. I motion to change the second to last clause of saying resolve that ASUCI Legislative Council will support any and all efforts done to increase retention and recruitment of Indigenous community in collaborate with the UCI American Indian Student Association to raise awareness around the issues affecting the indigenous community.
I object. You didn't mention, I know that they want the 2016 Native Youth Conference to be mentioned, is that
So
right?
I think the way my language is like any and all efforts will be inclusive of like voices.
But they didn't want to advertise that particularly in the, in
Can you
this.
suggest that comma, including the
I specifically wanted to have that be in another language, so I will not have that in my language. If someone wants to have a motion to amend my motion.
Is there a second for this motion? And then just to reiterate, it's to, motion to amend that ASUCI Legislative Council will show their support in the recruitment and retention of Native and Indigenous students on campus, as well as support for all efforts that ASA is pushing for. So is there a second?
I objected.
I object.
Do we continue discussion?
Yes, I haven't heard anyone mention it in a while. We did suggest advertise instead of sponsor.
Okay, so advertise in the bill or advertise to the school, because
So just change sponsor to advertise.
No, that.
because advertise still would mean maybe, or could mean a monetary value. And if it does.
Advertise or sponsor would not change what is happening.
So would
Can we,
any and all.
just to keep order, can I keep staff with who will speak and have, me call you on staff before you speak? Okay, so Mom, please finish your point.
So and advertise support, any and all efforts, that could all mean monetary efforts, which would then undermine the efforts of this bill, which is why I believe that we should not add this clause in the bill at all, or into the resolution.
Right?
Just one quick thing. One thing I'm just a little questionable about is why do you need our help if this is an event for high school students? Why do you need our support advertisement for a high school event?
We want support to advertise the events because we want people to know about it so that way they can help be part as volunteers for the event. That's what we're calling for because currently ASA has 3 active members currently for this year. How are we supposed to put on an event like the Native Youth Conference where we have over 50 students when we only have 3 active members? That's why we want to call for an advertisement so we can get recruitment for volunteers.
I move to amend the second to last paragraph to be resolved. The ASUCI Legislative Council shall show their support for the Indigenous community of UC Irvine by helping to advertise the 2016 Native Youth Conference held by the UC Irvine American Indian Student Association, in which students from Native communities all over Southern California come to learn about